Alright everyone, good morning. How are you all? Wednesday morning, middle of the week, and we're back on the morning briefing to talk all about Celtic, and there's plenty going on as we near the end of the summer transfer window. I am Hamish, we've got Tony and Ryan on with me as well. Ryan, how are things? What are you thinking about at the moment? Celtic related.
Always seems to be when I'm off, when I take a day off on a Tuesday, things start to happen. Because today, or yesterday rather, felt like one of the busiest days, and I wasn't there to see it. Or I was keeping up to date on the Celtic Way website, which you all can do, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. But it just seemed like things were moving with the Matt O'Reilly stuff, potentially some Arne Engels stuff too. You know, at this point, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it to happen now. I think I've resigned myself to the fact that Matt O'Reilly is going to leave the club in this window. Be a bit awkward now if he doesn't, I think, because the wheels seem to be in motion in other areas and for potential replacements and other ways in which to use that money. So, yeah, it's a waiting game at this moment in time, but I'm hoping that Celtic aren't sitting on their hands here. I hope they're doing their due diligence in the background and getting other positions sorted. They've still got work to do. They've still not signed a player out with goalkeeping. They've not signed an outfield player that we haven't, heard about.
This is getting longer and longer every time, because people were like, we've not signed a player, then we've not signed an outfield player. Now we've not signed an outfield player that we hadn't previously already signed.
Yeah. So it's a long way of saying something that I tried to shorten down there, but yeah, I'm just hoping that they do their business effectively in the remaining 9-10 days of the window. It's going down quickly. Yeah. I would be hoping for at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 players in before the end of the window. Whether or not that happens is a different story, but yeah, always happy to be back on.
Yeah, 9 full days and 1 extra one. Tony, how are you getting on?
That was a party political broadcast by the Ryan McGinley party.
Tell me about it.
Are you alright? You went knackered, mate.
No, I'm absolutely fine. I just went a long way of saying something that I could have said in about 20 seconds. You know what it's like, dusting off the cobwebs.
Very much so. We've all done it, don't we? We've all been there. Yeah, I'm fine, Hamish. Yeah, and I think like Ryan, if Matt O'Reilly leaves, which is almost certain to happen now, I think the wheels are in motion. It's a runaway train now. I think they're just dotting I's and crossing T's. But Celtic need to get down to business. And for me, that business would be a left back, a centre back. Brendan Rodgers said he wants 2 midfielders, might have to settle for 1 in the interim. But that's 3 positions that Celtic need to fill, and they have to spend, I would say, all of the Matt O'Reilly money coming in to do that, and get quality. So I'm hoping that that's what happens in the remaining days. I know they're leaving it short, but I can only imagine that something was triggered yesterday in the sense that Celtic now need to get a move on with, in terms of bringing in replacements. I believe there is due diligence being done with that, and I think that Engels remains a top target for Celtic, and we shall see if Celtic balk at the fact that he's worth 10 million quid, but I don't think Rodgers is balking at that fact. So we shall see what happens. But 9 days, Matt O'Reilly deal will go down, believe, within the next 24 hours, 48 hours, I said yesterday. So it leaves them enough time to start to get these players in. And I think that's what the Celtic supporters are hoping, that once Matt O'Reilly goes, to get those players in those positions that they need.
If we spend 25 million between now and the end of the window, we should get some real quality in. I mean, that's really exciting. But the kind of weird thing is that we've got all of this money in the bank because of the Champions League 3rd season in a row and some of the player sales, Jota, etc. But when we sign O'Reilly, we're still going to be have taken in far more money in 2024 than we've spent, when you consider like Lee Alabada and David Turnbull and guys like that. So as much as the prospect of Celtic spending like 40 million in a transfer window seems probably a little bit unlikely, the money is all there from sales before you even get to the Champions League money. So like we have so much money at the moment, and I just think, I repeat, the opportunity is there still to build a team, and O'Reilly going is going to be a huge blow. I'm convinced, given the pedigree of Engels, that he would be a really good replacement. I really hope that's who the club are eyeing up.
Yeah.
He seems to me to be a level above in terms of calibre. Some of the other names we've heard, the likes of Tanner Tessman and Alvin Sanchez, and remember there
Shea
was
Charles as well.
Shea Charles, and there was the MLS guy, Gazdag, was it? Engels, or so many names here. So many names, and I've not got them written down. Engels seems to me to have the real pedigree we're looking for as a replacement for Matt O'Reilly. I'm praying that it seems that O'Reilly's going to be going now. I'm really hoping the club move heaven and earth to get Engels in, because that, you know, a standout player at a side who finished, I think, 11th in Bundesliga last year. A young 20-year-old, is he? Fringes of the Belgium team. I really hope that's genuine chat, because that really excites me.
Yeah, it's a Champions League signing. I think it's what Celtic need. I've called for it for a good 2 years, as much as I admire what Tomoki Iwata does in there. I just got a message there from Tony. His computer's rebooting, so he'll be back on as soon as he can. As much as Iwata's done an admirable job in that position, I think you need a player of real quality there. And I think you've also got to plan for the future as well. Cal McGregor isn't going to be playing every single game, I don't think, or he shouldn't be playing every single game. He's got to be managed with these injuries that he picks up. He is picking up more injuries as he gets older, which is to be expected. It happens in football. Also happens when you play 50, 60 games a season. That wear and tear will eventually catch up with you. So I just think a young 20-year-old defensive midfielder would really reinvigorate that midfield. It's a great midfield just now, don't get me wrong, and domestically it's all conquering. But I think somebody in Europe that can just sit just in front of those centre-backs and really act as that safety net for them, but be able to move forward too, because he's very flexible in his position. From what Derek Ray was saying, that's available on the website. He's saying that he can play in a multitude of positions, but defensive midfield is predominantly the area that he's seen in. That would cause a bit of a reshuffle, I think, in the midfield. I don't know if that would maybe push Cal McGregor forward, push Hatate up to the number 10 position. But I think that's necessary, especially in Europe. I think Celtic need to get away from the fact that Cal McGregor's playing in defensive midfield in Europe. I think more often than not, you'll get caught out if you do that. So having a younger player, a player with, you know, maybe less skin in the game, I don't know, somebody that's raring to go and raring to put on those hard yards. Not that Cal McGregor isn't, but, you know, having that young player that's eager and you've put a real big price tag on him that can make the difference. I think it'd be a real statement of intent if you could sign a player like Engels. He was so close to making the Belgium Euro squad. He missed out very, very narrowly, but he's a player alongside quite a few youngsters that are coming through at Belgium just now. Openda, Onana, Engels as well. This seems to be the next generation coming through, and I think he's going to be a big part of that. If Celtic can get him first, play him for a couple of years, and then maybe down the line sell him for an even bigger profit than what you're selling Matt O'Reilly, then that's the model working in a great way. I just hope that this happens. He's the perfect profile, perfect age, perfect physicality. And by what Derek Ray was saying, it looks like he would walk the league with how good he is compared to, you know, he's playing at a higher level just now, admittedly, but it's the Champions League pool that would really bring him to the club, in my opinion.
The irony, I'll just get Tony back in, the irony about this whole buy and sell transfer strategy that Celtic have is the team that are signing Matt O'Reilly from is do it perfectly, albeit at a larger financial scale, given that they play in the English Premier League with all of the money. But they sell players all the time to Liverpool and Chelsea and teams like that for a lot of money, and then they go and replace them with guys like Matt O'Reilly. So we almost need to be looking at a club like Brighton and seeing what they do. And I think if we had more trust in our recruitment team to be able to replace guys like Matt O'Reilly, it would seem like less of an issue Matt O'Reilly leaving. I think the reality is, though, that not many of us have much trust in the recruitment team. Brendan Rodgers doesn't even seem to have much trust, guys, if you look at his comment on Friday. As much as he didn't criticise anyone actually at the club at the moment in that role, or in that department, he did say that department he feels needs to be looked at. So he doesn't clearly have too much faith in Celtic's recruitment department as it is now. But we have to get this right. The latest with O'Reilly, just if anyone needs to know, I think the language is pretty definitive on this from a number of outlets. He's played his last game for Celtic effectively. He's going to be going to Brighton, as Tony said, in the next 24 to 48 hours. Could well make his debut for them against Manchester United this weekend. So
do you want some breaking news?
Is it good or is it bad?
Bad if you're Celtic, good if you're Manchester City, I guess, if you're looking for a backup striker. Says that the Man City are... This is from Fabrizio Romano, by the way, so this is coming right from the top. And it just came out like 2 minutes ago. That Kyogo link seems to have legs in it. So the talk is
Kyogo
Man City
to Manchester City.
I know.
Is it? I mean, I love Kyogo, but yeah, I see it now. Manchester City are considering a move for Kyogo Furuhashi from Celtic, one of the options for winger position. Initial talks
a winger in about 3 years.
Initial talks took place this week as Hugh Murray and Sam Lee. I think Sam Lee's correspondent for The Athletic. City want to get, or that's not relevant to us. So, Fabrizio Romano linking Kyogo Furuhashi with Manchester City. Tony, that's an interesting one.
Okay. Well, we shall see. They've got 9 days to conclude a deal on that. Sorry about that. My computer decided to reboot, and they don't tell you these things. It just says it reboot, and you have no other option to reboot it. So there you go. So my apologies for coming off here. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think, as Ryan says, when Fabrizio Romano's tweeting it, then you've got to take it seriously, haven't you? But wow,
he thinks he's a winger. That's to me suggests that he maybe doesn't know totally what's going on.
This does make sense though when you think about the fact that Kyogo did swap agents a couple of weeks ago as well. There's no smoke without fire in these things. This is the last chance saloon for Kyogo to really make a move. I didn't expect it to be Man City if it is to be the case, but it's kind of caught me blindsided, this one, because I was reading it as sort of paper talk and speculation, but I did hear the link from Sam Lee last night. I know he was talking on a stream at some point yesterday saying that Manchester City are looking for a cheaper striker that can just put the ball in the back of the net, similar to sort of Julian Alvarez mould, even though they sold him for 82 million.
Did it against him a few weeks ago, didn't he? So you'll have pretty recent evidence.
If they sell Kyogo, you're certainly weakening your team. You're not going to be any stronger by the end of this August window. So
is it a non-negotiable for you guys? I guess every Celtic player has his price, but can't lose Kyogo. What if Man City come in and smack, I don't know, £20 million on the table?
Well, it's up to Celtic if they want to deal, isn't it?
Probably. I'm at risk of it because it's difficult doing this live. But 20 million for Kyogo, if that was the offer, would be decent business. No,
they would take that.
They would deal. Of course, they would deal. You know that,
especially for the shoulder injury that he's got at the moment. They did the same with Tierney as well, because I think they knew further down the line that his injuries were going to catch up with him. I'm not saying that this is the same with Kyogo. When teams like Manchester City come in for players and they're looking for a solution to these problems, the lure of Man City, regardless if he plays 5-10 games next season, he's very likely going to move because it's Manchester City. It's the best club side in the world at the moment, apart from Real Madrid. So we'll see what happens. I'll see if it's got any legs to it, but it's one that's completely shocked me. I just seen the notification come out of nowhere. I thought it was something to do with O'Reilly, and then you see Kyogo's face all of a sudden. You're like, what is going on? It would make the striker position for me really, really dubious, because you've got Adam Idah, who's still settling back into life at Celtic. If you take Matt O'Reilly and Kyogo out of that squad, the squad that did so well last season, Kyogo still did get 19 goals. O'Reilly get 30, 38, 37 goal contributions. That's a lot of goals you need to make up. And then instead of looking at maybe 4 or 5 places you're looking to strengthen, you might even be looking at 6 or 7. Now, 6 or 7 in 9 days is not ideal. I don't even think it's possible, to be honest. As it is just now, it's going to be a hard task trying to bring in the quality that's required at the end of the window. But to lose Kyogo like this would really be unthinkable, and it would be a disaster in the face of this new season, because he's so important to the team and everything that he does.
There's nothing. I mean, it's one tweet from Fabrizio Romano, a bit of reporting from a few other people. I think we should probably just remember that and just temper things slightly. But it's certainly an interesting one.
My temper's slightly boiling away.
Can my computer reboot now, please?
They can't contemplate that, Hamish. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It is a tweet. But I mean, you're reading into things now about his shoulder and all that as well, aren't you? Stuff like that. Is that the real reason why he was left out on Sunday? Stuff like that. We talking about that deal. The agent swapping of the agency. There are things falling into place here which are not to any supporters' liking, Celtic supporters' liking. You just can't contemplate selling Kyogo. We had the Hatate to Leicester last week, and then we're talking about selling Hatate and Matt O'Reilly in this window. People saying that'll just not happen. This can't be allowed to happen. It just can't be allowed to. You can't sell your best striker. I'm sorry, and I don't care if it's Manchester City. But again, I'm not making that decision. I know how the Celtic board work. They'll have a price for a 29-year-old, even with the shoulder the way it is. And if Man City, who'll be easily able to hit that price, then you've got to start contemplating the notion that they're contemplating selling Kyogo, which I just can't get my head around at the minute. Is completely and utterly blindsided everybody on this pod. But as you say, it's one tweet, but from such tweets, from small acorns and all of that stuff, frightening.
Yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, definitely. Listen, I really hope Kyogo stays, and I'll wait till there's something a bit more definitive before I start panicking. But I do get it. It certainly adds a little bit more intrigue to the final 9 days of the transfer window. We might return to
intrigue's one word for it, Hamish.
Yeah. We might return to this kind of stuff. Players potentially coming in, leaving, etc. The other one, which is on that topic, I wanted to bring up is Gustav Lagerbielke appears to be heading for Heerenveen in the Dutch Eredivisie. Season-long loan deal been spoken about there. I guess that kind of is good for all parties, isn't it? I don't think he's even really been featuring in squads so far this season, so get him out on loan. There's a number of players I think we could do with moving on. Made a bit of a list earlier, guys. I mean, Yang for me, someone who could go out on loan. I think there's a question about Odin Thiago home. Sorry, Ryan, but if we sign a couple of midfielders home, Kobayashi clearly doesn't have a future. Mikey Johnson, we'll see what the situation is with his. I think it's an eye socket injury he has. But Lagerbielke moving on, I guess, is one ticked off, Ryan.
Yeah, it's one that had to happen, unfortunately, for the player. It's just a move that hasn't worked out for him whatsoever. I thought he looked okay in his first couple of games, but it was clear that Brendan Rodgers, after taking a good look at him, was clear that he wasn't going to make the squads or make any squad. I remember from like November, December, the only time he actually got on the pitch was that Feyenoord game when he scored the header, and that probably
harmed it. Maybe because he gets to play against them some more.
Yeah, that is true. I hope that it does work out well for him. It's just not worked out at all at Celtic. It was the wrong type of profile. At Celtic, you need to have recovery pace, and Lagerbielke unfortunately does not have that at all. He's not a fast centre-back whatsoever. You can maybe get away with that in other leagues, but I think with the way that Celtic play, especially being so dominant on the ball, it wasn't really going to work out. I just think it was, not that it was shady, but it was the way that it was finalised with Starfelt going, and then funnily enough another centre-back coming in the other way from the same agent or from a similar agent. That's not the way in which I think you do business. You scout your own centre-backs, you find them Then again, they probably did that with Nawrowski, and that's been about as successful as well. Maybe a bit more successful than Lagerbielke with more games played. But these are players that were brought in for good sums of money for Celtic's sort of transfer market. So to move them on a year after would indicate and suggest that not that they've been flops, but they've just been, they've not made the grade, unfortunately. I hope that there's more bodies that move out. Mikey Johnson, we're at the 21st of August and he's still at Celtic. I think we all knew in about June or July where his future was, and that was elsewhere. Kobayashi's still at the club. He had a full US tour. Even Odin Thiago Holm, he's only getting 1 minute off the bench in some games. So if you can move them on, either for game time or permanently, loan or permanent, just as long as you get the bodies out and bring that quality in, then I don't think anybody will be complaining. But for Lagerbielke, it's a good move for him.
Yeah, it's something we're going to keep an eye on, Tony, in the last week. There's going to be players moving out. We've kind of already moved quite a few out so far this window. I think it's like when you think of Haksabanovic and O and numerous other players I can't think of.
Yeah, but what I don't want here is the likes of, if we do manage to hold on to Kyogo and then be told, we fought off Man City, and been told that this is a really good transfer window. I mean, I want to keep our best players, Hamish, and I want to add quality. Yeah, and add to it. I'll try to build a team to go into and not participate in the Champions League, compete. The manager's words, not mine. So I'm not having this, narrative that, Celtic are going to turn around at the end of this window and maybe say, well, we managed to keep Kyogo. No, that's a prerequisite that we should be keeping Kyogo. I know every player has his price, but do you trust this board not to see what Man City are offering and take the money and run? Not so sure. So, you were looking at, getting your head around the fact that Matt O'Reilly was going, but you got your head around that for a while. That you were primed for that. This one's blindsided and came from left field. And so, and the time's of the essence here. Celtic do not have time to bring in what would end up being maybe 5 or 6 players. That's half a team. You're looking at, they need to bring in, and the likes of the guys that are trying to move on, Lagerbielke's, Mikey Johnson's of this world, that's fine. There's interest in Lagerbielke from Heerenveen, but there's no interest for Mikey Johnson. I just don't see them drumming up that interest. Trying to get rid of those players. Putting players on loan, like Yang. Is there any takers, or are they trying to hawk them round and see? And nobody's biting at the minute, because there's lots of players that Celtic need to get rid of, either on loan or permanently. But Kyogo's not one of them. So, I don't know. The mind boggles. You say it's intriguing. Lots of other words. But if Celtic are left in a situation where they need 5 players, my goodness, someone tell me then how they're going to be stronger coming out of this window and better. As I say, the next 9 days are going to be intriguing, yes. We'll say intriguing because my inner thoughts will betray what I'm actually thinking at this minute in time, but there you go.
Yeah. We've got, as we say, 9 days to get quality in and to try and hold on to our best players. And I think that's the thing I would say. We've taken so long so far in this window to do the business that we need to do, and a lot of it hasn't been done yet, that it's going to be so frantic in the final few days. I'll go through a few of your comments, actually, and then we can continue the discussion. JJ McGarvey talking about Anderson leaving on loan. Is this Matt Anderson? Framer, Montgomery are going to step up at left back. Is it... sorry, I've read that completely wrong. Saying, I'll try again. Anderson leaving on loan, so unless Framer, Montgomery are going to step up, a left back is the main thing. What's the chat about Matt Anderson moving on?
I believe it's Reading that he's been linked with to go on loan for a season.
Right.
Yeah, Reading are in
Good
League
move.
One, so that would be a good move for him. I think that would be one that would be very worthwhile, and it would mean that he gets exposure in a better league. It's better him playing there than playing in the Lowland League. League One is far better. it could be akin. Some of the teams could be akin to the Scottish Premiership as well. So that's a good move for him if that gets sorted. But it would also point, and I do agree with the comment, it would point to the fact that there needs to be a left back brought in, because there was talk of Anderson potentially being a backup at one point this season. So if he's to leave, Mitchell Frame, we've seen him once and we've hardly seen him since. I thought he looked good against Feyenoord for the fleeting minutes that he played against Feyenoord. But you would hope that Celtic are further down the line with a left back. It's got to be underlined here that at this moment in time, Greg Taylor can leave the club. He can speak to other teams in January about a new contract or moving to a new team on a different contract. So it's important that they get that. Even if I don't want it to be backup, I want Celtic to bring in a player that's better than Greg Taylor, can really push Greg Taylor, but they need a body in there, because you're risking it playing the one player week in, week out, and not having somebody like Anderson, who maybe could have done a job this season. I'm glad that he's going and getting guaranteed minutes probably at Reading, but they just need to bring in a left back. There are positions that we've been talking about all summer that have not been addressed yet. We come on this podcast every day and say we need a centre back, we need a left back. How far they're further forward are the club with getting these positions? Because it just seems like there's getting less and less and less time. We're going into single digits of days left of the transfer window, and these positions still haven't been sorted. There was talk
You'll
about
find that out in 9 days. You'll find that out in 9 days, how further forward they are with it.
There was talk about Darrell Shea at the start of July. It's now the middle, coming on towards the end of August, and there's still no. There was Danilic as well, the Salzburg.
Mepham.
I know, yeah, Mepham. There was talk about that in the past couple of days, but there doesn't seem to be any further movement in these positions. And then all of a sudden, there's talk about other positions that will need strengthening too. You talk about the striking position potentially, talk about the Matt O'Reilly position, other positions in the midfield. This is going to turn into a hell of a job if all these positions aren't sorted, and then you're beginning to lose players rather than add players into the team. They've got 9 days, and it's going to have to be a really, really busy 9 days. I hope I'm kept busy for the next 9 days talking about all these transfers that are coming through the door, because at the moment, I'm a tad concerned about the lack of movement that's getting done at the moment in some areas.
I like the Owen Wijndal report, the Ajax left back. That I thought to me seemed like quite a good one, having looked at what he's done in recent years. Pretty good with Antwerp last season. Bit of pace by the looks of things. He's an 11-time Netherlands international as well. Like, I quite like to look at that one, Tony. The Owen Beck stuff is the other stuff regarding a left back that doesn't seem to be going away.
No, but yeah, the Ajax left back, that fits the bill, doesn't it? You come from a real decent pedigree there. That's the players that you want. As I say, likes are great, but you'd rather have signings and likes of Enkels as well, and Sanchez in the midfield. That to me strikes of succession planning and forward planning, and I like that. But as I say, clock's ticking down on this window. If they know, and we kind of know now that Matt O'Reilly's going to Brighton, these guys should be in the building. This should be done and dusted. These we've known we've needed a left back for time and perpetual motion. Known we've needed a centre back as well. So why are we leaving it? Is it all dependent on the money coming in for Matt O'Reilly's sale before they spend money? I just that
can't be.
You've got 9 days of. It's going to be hectic, scrambling around activity, and clubs know you're reaching desperate stages now to get players in, so they'll throw all sorts of roadblocks in front of you in terms of the price. They also know you're awash with cash, so they'll just try and serve you googlers, and say, well, if you want them, here's what we want for them, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem a thought out way to do business. There's no joined up thinking here, and I do place a lot of stock in what the manager says, and he's told everybody that they will be stronger come August the 30th. Fine, and he's reiterated that he wants players because he wants to compete in the Champions League and not just participate. But Celtic are looking at, they're looking at trying to get 5 players in within 9 days. That's really what they could be up against here. And it took them months to conclude the Ida deal. I just think there's no confidence in anybody upstairs want to get that done. The only person you have confidence in is the manager. And hopefully it's him that's identifying the players and saying, get him, I want him, we need him. So that's all we've got at this moment in time. But time, and speaking of time is running out.
I just think at the moment, there's such a feel-good factor around Celtic on the park. Off the park, with these transfers, people are disappointed that Matt O'Reilly's leaving, but they can understand that because, he's given, he's been there for 4 seasons, played 3 full seasons, 3.5. So I think they understand that. It's the end of a cycle. He's moving down to Brighton. It's a good move for him. They're one of the best run clubs in the UK. I just think Celtic are at risk here of undoing all that good feeling that's currently at the club for other things that are off the field. And, this seems to happen, or it can happen, in quite a few seasons round about this time. Something will crop up and it will cause a bit of a divide in the support, especially at home games where you start to hear the moaning and groaning. On the pitch, they look brilliant just now, but that's because they have quality on the pitch. If they lose that quality, and they're definitely going to lose one of them probably in Matt O'Reilly, then they have to replace it with like-minded players. They can't. Brendan Rodgers was talking about needing to be stronger when they're coming out of the window, stronger coming out of the window than they are when they were entering it. If that is the case, then I'll absolutely love to see the players that are going to be coming in the next 9 days, because, and it's only rumours and reports, but these reports they're quite damaging if they turn into fruition, unfortunately, for the club. They're big players that have stepped up in big games. It's not just the fees for players, but it's actually what those players bring to the club and what they've done in big games and big moments. That's very difficult to replace. So I'm hoping that it's just not paper talk, but just speculation and rumours surrounding Kyogo. But time is of the essence, as Tony was saying. 9 days to really pull this one out of the bag. I think the signings have been good so far, but I think they need quantity as well as quality. I know people say quality rather than quantity, but I think they need both. I think they need bodies and quality at the same time, just to perk up this squad.
Yeah, it's definitely first team quality that I'm looking at. Centre back, left back are the two that we've been crying out for all summer, and still there's no real update on the centre back stuff. And as we stand, we're going into the Champions League with Greg Taylor as our only real left back option, and Liam Scales is the best partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers. And I think we have a feeling that at Champions League level, that left-hand side of the defence may well be exploited by the best teams in the world. So that, for me, plus the Matt O'Reilly stuff, he's going to leave a massive hole when he moves to Brighton in the coming days. That needs to be plugged as well. And then you've got this kind of, and it's only one real tweet at this stage, but this kind of Kyogo chat as well. You can see why people are kind of pessimistic at the moment, but the weird thing for me is it comes at a time where I'm really optimistic about the actual team that we're watching on the pitch and the manager. Like, I'm so excited to watch them this Sunday against St Mirren. And I think even if we sell O'Reilly and even Kyogo domestically, I'd still fancy us to go and win the league pretty comfortably. But for me personally, I've moved beyond measuring this team in the league. I want to measure us at Champions League level, because I'm fed up at European level of going every year and being disappointed. Yes, the league's still the most important thing, of course it is, because that's what really, winning the league is always the first aim every single season. But the Champions League, for me, I want Celtic to achieve something at that level. And I think if we lose Matt O'Reilly, and if we don't sign a left back and a centre back, and we don't replace O'Reilly, I just think our work is cut out there. To be honest, that's how I feel about things. So that's how important the last 9 days are of the window.
Of course,
yeah.
I mean, that's what you want. You want the team to be represented in this new Champions League phase in the best possible way. That's the yardstick now. I think Brendan's kind of But he's sent out messages like that as well. That's his yardstick. He wants Celtic to go into Europe and make a real fist of it, be as competitive as possible and claim scalps. That's what we all want. Because I think this team is good enough to win domestically at this minute in time. They've got a good squad of players, and we hope to add to that with even more quality. But, I just don't like, I told you before, I just don't like the mood music at the minute. On the park, it's great. We said that. We should be in a real high because of the stuff they're producing on the park. But we'll get 9 days of drama coming up now. It's just like, you don't need it. Nobody needs it. And I don't think the club helped herself. I think everything else we stealing ourselves for Matt O'Reilly leaving, and that's fine. We can cope with that. But we didn't want any other crown jewels to leave the building. Not saying Kyogo's going to leave, but these things don't help. We're trying to build something to go into Europe. This newly revamped Champions League competition, the manager sees things that he thinks this Celtic team could be successful. The style of play, you look and you think, yep, with a few sprinklings of quality players, you think, yep, this team could maybe achieve something. So let's go and achieve it. But you're coming on and you're hoping to be as positive as possible, and then all of a sudden, you're like, seriously? I just start head blown, as they say.
Yeah. Any other comments, Ryan? And we'll head
there seems to be a story coming out in the past 20 minutes, another story, but this is about an incoming rather than an
Hatate leaving or Carter Vickers going to AC Milan.
Celtic getting linked with Celtic. This is according to Polish media. Celtic are seriously interested in Mateusz Bogic. He plays for LAFC, Los Angeles FC. He's a goal-scoring midfielder. Says there's talks already underway between the two clubs to establish a transfer fee and negotiations regarding the 22-year-old's contract. So that's maybe something to look out for, or something to chase today. But it seems to be everything's happening at the one time, and it's so difficult to talk about everything on a 30-40 minute podcast when things are moving very quickly in numerous positions. But it's probably what we expected as well. Although we're concerned about the lack of movement, we did think that in the next 9 days or so there would be a lot of movement, both incoming and outgoing. Maybe not the outgoings that we would want, but those outgoings could potentially fund the incomings that are coming in as well. So that could be something to look at. 22-year-old, he's got a good goal record in the MLS, only 22 years old.
13 goals in 24 matches last season in the MLS.
That's quite a ridiculous number for a midfielder. So that's the sort of players that you would want Celtic to be looking at, and that's probably the sort of player that they'd be looking at to replace Matt O'Reilly, or one of those players, a goal-scoring midfielder, because you've got to get those double digits in goals and assists from somewhere else. Someone's got to make up those numbers, whether that's on the wing or as an attacking midfielder. If you do that, if you bring in an attacking midfielder and then spend the money on a guy like Engels, who's the defensive midfielder, then it does change about your midfield, but it does reinvigorate it as well. It's one to watch, and we'll talk about it more. Who knows? It might not even be the last podcast that Tony and I do today with all of the stuff that's going about. But yeah, and I think exciting is the one word you would use. Maybe not a positive excitement, but exciting all the same. There's stuff going on in the background. Hectic. That's the word, exactly the word I was looking for.
Mateusz Bogic, former Leeds United and Ibiza player. Bet he had a fun time playing for them. Two different spells at Ibiza, Tony.
Is that right? Well, playing football or just what club did he play for at Ibiza?
Who knows?
Yes, indeed. Who knows? Indeed. There you go. Listen, we shall see what transpires. It's going to be rumour mill central between now and the next 9 days, isn't it? But we prefer incomings. I would just bolt the doors. You know what I mean? So it's just like there's people saying I'm getting upset at one tweet. I'm not getting upset. I'm just sort of weighing it up in my head. It's like it's when guys like Fabrizio Romano start tweeting about it. Then
apparently
you've got to see there's substance to it. I'm not saying he's the all-seeing eye or he's the Messiah. He gets it wrong too, but I like everyone else, I was ready to dismiss it as speculation, paper talk. But when he tweets it, then you think there's some substance to it. So I just can't see how Celtic would entertain that. But again, you know the way the board work. And Liam Devine at A Haggerty 10, you hate Kyogo. Wow. I think you want to read the Celtic Way in the back catalogue of stuff that I've written, Liam, on Kyogo. So there you go. I'm astonished by that comment. I can only assume it's a bit of trolling, but there you go. Wow.
Yeah. We all love Kyogo, what he's brought to the club, and we don't want him to leave, but we'll keep an eye on this story. There's a new kit out today as well, everyone.
Yes, I believe
the club wanting a wee bit more money from us.
Season.
Won't be able to see you. Right, okay. Going ahead, guys. Thank you once again. Always good to get breaking news, and you delivered 2 lots of that today, Ryan. So fair play. Thank you everyone for tuning in, commenting, etc. And as I say, we will be back tomorrow to do it all again. Speak to you then.